Cristina Moscardi and all the organizations and clusters involved at the Smart City Cluster. I'm very glad to be here today, and I'm going to share my presentation. Let me know if you can see it.
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah, is it full screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so as Mirko was mentioning, my presentation is going to be about how COVID-19 has affected cities in the last year and how urban innovation has been indispensable to confront all the challenges that this pandemic has brought. Well, there is no need for introduction. My name is Cristina Garrido. As Mirko was mentioning, I'm Director of Innovation and Strategic Development at Anteverti and Deputy Curator at the Smart City Expo World Congress, which you may probably know, all of you, the event that happens in Barcelona every year. And I'm also Director for Cities to Be. Let me introduce you briefly our work at Anteverti so you can locate what we do and what's our expertise. Anteverti it's a word that comes from Latin, and it means to foresee, to predict, and to anticipate and see in advance. We are a consulting companies that help governments, cities, and companies to innovate towards a more efficient and sustainable future through means of innovation, always. The company was founded by Pilar Conesa, who unfortunately cannot be here today, but she sends her greetings as well, and who was the previous CIO of the city of Barcelona. And after her role at the city council, she decided to start the consulting company. We are a small company. We have a team of 15 people, but we're really international. We work all around the globe in like 4 continents. We work a lot in Latin America, in Europe, with European projects, and we're starting to work in Africa, especially the north of Africa, and some countries in Asia as well. Our expertise is focused on smart cities, economic development, digital transformation, urban innovation, sustainability, and SDGs, and international positioning. And we have 2 lines of business. First of all, we do consulting and strategic consulting for cities, regional governments, and companies. And we also specialize in helping organizations, whether governmental or not, to position themselves internationally through means of congresses and curation of content. As I was mentioning, we are the curators of the Smart City Expo World Congress, the world event on smart cities that you probably all know. Like these are the figures of 2019, because unfortunately last year, sorry, because of the pandemics, we had to go online and do a live version of the event, which was very successful, by the way. But otherwise, in 2019, the event reached the 24,400 visitors and 700 cities. So this is a proof of how important it is. And it's going to be happening again in 2021 in a hybrid form. So you're all invited to join it. Just quickly to let you know that the event has become so successful that FIRA Barcelona is also taking it to other countries in the world who are interested to host it. So we also direct all the events that happen internationally. So that make us really aware of the latest innovations and projects that are happening around the world related to smart cities. These are some of our clients. You will see that we have cities, we have regional government, we have multilateral organizations such as UN Habitat or the IBD, or the World Bank, etc. And we also work for companies such as Football Club Barcelona, implementing the smart city model as well for their stadiums or their other spaces. We have a blog called Cities to Be that I welcome all of you to visit, where we gather all the knowledge that we are exposed to in all our congresses and our projects. We work with a lot of experts internationally, and we like to gather all this knowledge that we are exposed to on this platform. So you're all welcome to check it out. So I'm going to start heading to the presentation. Just as an introduction, when the pandemic started, we decided to write a series of articles on speculating how the COVID-19 crisis was going to affect cities. And this was pretty successful online, and we got a lot of invitations to present the series of articles. So we decided after 1 year to write another series of articles on how this pandemic had affected actually cities. So you can access all the articles on the Cities2Be platform. There are articles on climate emergency and carbon print. There is internationalization. There is urban innovation and digital transformation, for example. So we cover different verticals. The article that I directed with my team, with Mireia Tudri and Ana Gonzalez, who are researchers and consultants at Anteverti, was on the indispensability of urban innovation. And we found 5 examples on how innovation has proven crucial to face the COVID-19 crisis for many cities. So, as you know, urban densification has been an issue that has been discussed through the years, and the discussion between the urban sprawl and the dense city has always been on the paper and on the agenda for the urban specialist discussions for many years. We see images like this, which we're very much used to, or like this, like in cities, public spaces, markets, popular streets and touristic streets, or like Mediterranean markets that we're very used to, but that with the pandemic have become in crisis owed to human contact. All our human interactions have had to be questioned, like the handshake that we're very used to, or the 2 kisses that we're used to in Southern European countries, have been questioned. Like we could no longer touch each other, we could no longer have direct contact, human contact with other people. And we've gotten used to new habits like washing our hands repeatedly times, like a day, or having masks everywhere at work, at home, and in the back all the time, or washing our hands with sanitizer gel every time that we were getting into a shop. These are images that before the pandemic we were not used to, but that nowadays we're very much used to, and that we exactly know what they mean. So I'm here to convince you that innovation has played a massive role in the way cities have confronted this crisis and this pandemic. Innovation has been a buzzword the last 10 years. Everybody has been talking about urban innovation, but somehow for many people it was a little bit empty of meaning. But actually, it is not empty of meaning, and it is a tool that has been crucial, as I was saying, to confront all these crises. We've had to learn new ways to organize the way we inhabit cities and the way we use it. Like, for example, the queues at supermarkets, or just shops. We had to reorganize the way we use public spaces and streets. We had to rethink the way that we would use waiting areas or stations. Even at restaurants, we had to come up with new ways of inventions to be able to continue our everyday life on public spaces. At theaters as well, we had to invent new ways to continue the cultural activity in cities, which is very important, and it's a big part of it. Or even going to the gym has become something, that needed innovation to continue happening in cities. So I'm going to talk about the 5 examples that we found most important, where this urban innovation that I was talking about has been crucial for cities. First of all, we think that it has been crucial to reinvent public services for a new era. As you know, city governments have had always the fame of being heavy and not very efficient, as this image may represent. And digital transformation has been a tool that has been there available for actually already many years for governments to improve themselves. But somehow, because of the heaviness of the structure of public administration, it has been difficult for it to adapt to the new era and the new digital era. So this pandemic somehow has been an opportunity, if we can call it so, for many countries to accelerate the process. And we've had examples of the countries that have been the fastest in doing so. For example, South Korea, which very quickly started a program of communication in all the city, like on the awareness of wearing masks or avoiding public human contact. They also launched a mobile app to self-check people for COVID. So you could download the app, self-check yourself on if you had symptoms of COVID and so on. And through data gathering and open data, the government could have a track and a map of all the cases of COVID around the city and around the country. So this allowed the country to control the pandemic much quicker and to soften the curve much quicker than any other country. This has been linked to the Korean New Deal, which is a program that Korea is now fostering, a little bit continuing with this inertia of the digital transformation that the pandemic has facilitated to transform into digital economy quickly. And the country wanted to be the blueprint for South Korea for the next 100 years. So, this is very good because at the end, it's an example of how the crisis of the pandemic has brought an opportunity for a country to turn digital in a very fast manner. In many other countries, also this pandemic has accelerated processes, and we've seen how public services such as education or health have also had a massive transformation, and we can access it digitally nowadays. Also, public bureaucracy, as we all know, that it's always been a little bit of a hassle, has had an acceleration through this pandemic in many countries, and many public administrations of many cities have done the digital transformation of a lot of bureaucratic processes that now we can do much easier and quicker thanks to digital transformation. So somehow public services have found a challenge in this pandemic, but also an opportunity to accelerate digital transformation and to provide better services. The second point is rethinking the future of housing. As we know, housing has always in the last year especially been a problem, especially in densified cities. It is not the same, this image of beautiful houses with garden and open spaces for people, and in a model of urban sprawl where you have open air spaces for kids to run around and to breathe fresh air, than housing in massified cities such as this image of Hong Kong, but we can mention many others like Singapore, New York, London, Barcelona, and Paris, and many others, where people, and especially people with more humble economically, have to live in much more dense ways and in very limited spaces with no open air or no access to open spaces. So in this sense, innovation is playing actually a massive role. And examples like this, the self-sufficient city, this is a project by Vicente Guayar, who won the first prize for Xiong'an post-COVID housing contest, where him and his team proposed a housing complex that is self-sufficient and that will be an answer if other pandemics come in the future. In its model, it is a housing project that proposes its own way to produce food and to have its own spaces for social interaction. So the model would have orchards where inhabitants could grow their own food and take care of their own food. This food would go into and supply into the the own supermarket of the complex, the housing complex. So they would grow the food, they would provide the food to the supermarket, so they don't have to go out from the housing complex. And they even would have working spaces with like all sorts of material, 3D printing, for example, to work from the same complex, avoiding having to go out and to have more human contact, which this has been one of the main problems for many people in cities, that we could not go out to public spaces because of the risk of public interaction and of contagion. So in this way, this model would be a much more controlled way of inhabiting a city, but having access to supermarkets in a safety way, to food provide, and also to open air spaces. The third point is digital is good, but real is better. I really like this concept because we have seen our cities like this when in the middle of the pandemic, like any city in the world was completely empty. Public spaces were empty, spaces for cars, but also spaces for people were completely desertic. Shops were closed. Parks also were closed. There were no children playing at parks or on the streets. This is an image, probably you know it. This is La Ramblas in Barcelona, which is the most transited street in the whole city. And this is an image of how it was through the pandemic days. It was completely empty, like quite a devastating image for any Barcelonian. Or this is an image of Plaza Mayor in Madrid, which is always full of people in terraces having drinks and interacting, and it was completely empty. Bars were closed as well, and social interactions were completely shut down. So here, thanks to innovation, in this case to technological innovation, we've been able to continue with our everyday lives. We've been able to do the shopping online, like for groceries. We've been able to buy like our clothes or our shoes or our everything that we needed online as well, thanks to e-commerce. So new technologies have played a great role in that. We've been able to continue doing sports at home, like yoga or whatever sport you were playing. Like there were like a lot of tutorials and people offering sports classes online. We've been able to continue working thanks to like many online platforms like Skype or Teams or Zoom or many others that have raised up like from the pandemics. And we've been able also to keep our family and friends gatherings thanks to the same platforms. But this is an image that really touches me because although thank you to new technologies, we've been able to continue with our everyday life, we've realized that at the end of the day, after talking so much about technology in the last years, we've realized that what we really want is go back to human contact. This is an image of my grandmother through the pandemic. And I was talking to her, thanks to new technologies, I could keep in touch with her and see her and get her to see me. But somehow, first of all, she did not have the knowledge to access these platforms. So she needed help to access all these like Skype platforms or the video conference platforms. And also, although it was very good and thanks to new technologies, we could keep in touch and talk, we could not touch each other. And as you know, for elder people, touch is a very important thing. So the conclusion of this is that thanks to innovation, in this case, technological innovation, we've been able to continue with our everyday lives through the pandemics, but we've realized about the importance of human interaction, and we really want to go back to that. So we hope the next innovations are going to be taking place focusing on that. The fourth point is the rise of active and sustainable mobility. And this is, I know, the topic that concerns the day of today in the modules. As you know, mobility has been a problem in the last year, especially in big cities, like rush hours and massive concentrations in public transportations has always been a problem because of efficiency and how public services could supply all the demand for people commuting from one place to another. We were used also to move from one side of a city to the other side of the city, or even from one city to another, or even from one country to another through planes as well. And the concentrations of people moving around was massive. So of course, this in a time of pandemic where a virus is spreading around was a massive problem because of the human contact that these concentrations implied. So thanks to like the pandemic, which brought a lot of issues and important issues, but also opportunities, new concepts such as Carlos Moreno's 15-minute city arise. Probably you know this concept. Carlos Moreno is an innovation expert based in Paris. He's French-Colombian. And he came up with this very easy terminology that sums up all the discussions that we've been having in the last years around mobility, which is based in 4 pillars: ecology, proximity, solidarity, and participation. The first city to imply this is Paris. He's working very closely with Mayor Anne Hidalgo to put this model into practice in Paris. And what it means is that in any city in the world, you should be able to access any basic service within 15 minutes time by walk or by bike. So this means that you should be able to go to work by walk in 15 minutes. You should be able to go to the supermarket and get supplies, or to pick up the children at school, or to do all the things in your everyday life, to enjoy public spaces as well, open air spaces, within the frame of a 15-minute walk. This is a very different model from the model that cities have been designed in the last century, especially like urban planning wise. And now together with Anne Hidalgo, with Mayor Hidalgo, they're working on a plan on how to redesign Paris in order to accomplish this model by quarters. So this is going to be a very interesting project that we're going to see growing in the next years, and that I really recommend you to follow up. We have the case of Barcelona as well. You probably know. Barcelona has been working on a bike lane network like for many years, actually, like for more than 10 years. The city has already been working and wanting to reach the European standards of bike lanes. The city has been working hard on building up new bike lanes, but since the pandemic, somehow this has been very much accelerated. So we have seen a lot of bike lanes growing all around the city, which in places where before there weren't. And this has caused a lot of controversy because there is less space for cars and more space for bikes, which, has caused a little bit of trouble in the public opinion for many people. We have new areas of 30 kilometers per hour and 20 and even 10 kilometers per hour, which are cyclable areas, and also make it safer for pedestrians, going from a 45% of mortality to a 5%. So this reduction of speed is very important in certain areas in cities, and Barcelona is definitely going for a model of a more walkable and cyclable city and less dedicated to cars. So these are other examples of the same. Also, the city has created a Ronda Verde, which is a circuit that goes around the city in all the peripheric like lanes, and that before it didn't exist, but now is mapped and easy to access. And it goes from the mountains to the riverside or to the seafront. So it is a very pleasant cycle that you can do, and that the city council is really pushing forward for people to use it. All these changes, at least probably in Barcelona, but in many other cities as well that are working, like Milan or New York, on mobility plans, alike the one in Barcelona, have caused an explosion of active or soft mobility, which is, as you know, the mobility that uses the energy of the pedestrian or the citizen for him or her to move around. So it implies bikes, and we've seen many other sorts of vehicles around city, like electric skates, but also like skateboards, longboards, online skates. Like here in Barcelona nowadays, there is a massive explosion of all sorts of vehicles around town. So we are facing a new challenge, which is now we need to regulate all this, because the city has gone a little bit mad in that sense. But it is, of course, for a very good reason, because it means that we're pushing forward towards a more sustainable mobility model. So hopefully the next steps in terms of innovation will be finding new ways of regulating this and make it more sustainable long term. And fifth and last, and very, very related to the new models of mobility, is how this is creating more human-centered public spaces. As you know, cities in the last century have been planned mostly for cars. Like a crazy percentage of the city spaces were dedicated to circulation of cars, mostly. And going back to the example of Barcelona, which is where I'm from and I know well, because we also work with the Barcelona City Council for many years, is the case of superblocks that you may know in Eixample. Eixample is, as you see, probably the ones that you know Barcelona know the plan, but Eixample is the urban plan created by Ildefons Cerdà in 1960. Which wanted to expand the city besides the medieval walls. So they knocked down the medieval walls and they did an extension of the city. This extension of the city was very modern for the time. It was very like forward thinking, thinking that in the future there would be all sorts of vehicles transiting through the city. So the car was already in Cerdà's mind when he planned this model. And as you see, the whole city is made by blocks, which permit to transit cars like vertically and horizontally. So nowadays, we have all the city designed like this, which is very characteristic, but it is all dedicated mostly to cars. Actually, this is Passeig de Gràcia, which is a very wide pedestrian walk, but usually the pavement is not as much dedicated to pedestrian, it's more dedicated to cars. So it is a very transited city, and especially in the Eixample area. So what the city council is working on, and based on Le Corbusier's concept of the city blocks, the super blocks, is that if we are coming from on the left side, a model of a grid dedicated to cars that go vertically and horizontally in each direction each time. So one goes north, the next one goes south. The new city model for the super blocks is to pedestrianize 4 blocks in the center of every 9 blocks to give more public spaces to citizens and to neighbors of the area, to create less pollution as well because of the reduction of cars in the area, and to improve the quality of life of people living there. So if we had this image of the crossing full of cars, nowadays we see images like this, full of life and people being able to use them as public spaces to play games, to gather together and have lunch, go to a picnic. These were spaces that were completely full of cars before. And yeah, it's like spaces for children. There is community organizations organizing workshops and events also in these spaces. And it has proven to be like people were really scared at the beginning, but more and more it's proving that there was something very much needed, especially in Eixample, which is an area with very little green areas and public spaces for people. And now the new question is whether these areas that are going to get these super blocks are going to be so gentrified that people will not be able to access housing again. So gentrification is a problem that arises now. But this model, I've spoken about Barcelona, but this model is also being implemented in many other cities, like, as I said, New York, Milan or Paris. And hopefully these pandemics, through these 5 examples that I've spoken about, is gonna be an opportunity somehow to think of new ways of reorganizing and redesigning cities. And as proven, urban innovation is a perfect tool to do so. So I really hope that we all continue using it as a tool to improve our cities. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Cristina, for this really wide view on how COVID and change in mobility form cities at the moment. I think it was, you have a good insight on the different aspects we are facing urban life at the moment, and also how it changed behavior in cities and how we shift from conservative ways of thinking to new forms of shaping cities. Maybe a small question for me then: if these cities or these Ramblas, when they reduce the traffic or when they completely ban the traffic, where all these cars are parking then? I mean, Barcelona is, I guess, also a city which is quite crowded with traffic, and you also have a lot of commuter, like going to work to Barcelona, and probably it changed also like the concentration of traffic in these areas.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, like the city was pretty empty. Like there were no cars on the street. And because, you know, we started to work from home, like many of us, because, you know, that would avoid human contact at work and like in the office. So this had a massive impact. People not commuting to work, whereas in the city, or like if you had to go outside the city, it had a massive impact on the traffic of the city and the exits of the city. And it was much more, it was actually completely quiet. So yeah, it had a massive impact, like on mobility as well. And traffic-wise, the city was very much empty.
How you think it will change now when we pass this constant state of pandemic and we come to more regular life, I would say?
Yeah,
How
I
it
think,
change? I mean,
yeah, of course. Well, I think, of course, it's going to change. Like it is already changing. Now we're getting vaccinated. And for example, us at Anteverti, we only go 1 day to the office, but probably it will change the way we conceive work, especially in the southern countries. Like flexibility at work was a little bit seen as a bad idea because it implies a lot of trusting your employees, and you know, and being flexible about the schedules and timetables, and self-responsibility was very much involved. And this has changed completely the conception that we had on flexibility over time and space. And we're working from home like 2 days or 3 days a week, and we will go to the office another 2 or 3 days a week. And we think this is a very good balance because it will allow us to keep the balance between the personal and the professional life much more. And I think this is something that is going to be a tendency in all around the world, not only in our case. So hopefully it will continue, like the impact on mobility will remain a little bit after the pandemic.
So you don't think that we will come back to how it was before?
Hopefully not. And actually related to this and to your first question, which is interesting, is the whole city of Barcelona was locked down and the city was empty. But then when we were able to go back, because, you know, the government allowed us to go back to the streets little by little and by time frames, we realized we had no parks or places to go to because, you know, there is very little green spaces and green areas in the city. So most of the space was dedicated to cars, but it was empty. So actually, this was an evidence on how much space in the city was dedicated to something that was very useful and advanced in one moment in history, but that we've realized that it's very polluting and that is taking away space for humans in cities, which should be the main stars and the main characters of the city life.
Yeah, thank you. So we hope that, or we all should hope that maybe it also brought some mind-changing thinking to the people. Yeah. How we see our environment. So then we have a.
Oh, sorry, Mirko. No,
just finish your thought there.
Sorry, just to mention, this is interesting how mobility itself also impacts many other aspects of cities, such as public space or environmental sustainability, for example. Like, you know, we've reduced cars and we have much more spaces for people and children to play, healthier societies as well, and less pollution. So, you know, mobility is a crucial part of cities nowadays. Sorry, continue.
So yeah, we have a question in the chat from Encarna Barras Marin. If I read it right, I don't know if she wants to speak by herself or I just read the question. Okay, the question is, what do you think about the diagonal tram project in Barcelona? According of your presentation, and I agree, it would be an anachronic model, similar to the one of the pictures you put. But politicians insist when there are lots of more sustainable zero-emission transport models, alternatives. It's like if old ideas from the previous century should be imposed.
Interesting. This is a big debate. Probably people here who know Barcelona or who are from Barcelona like have a strong opinion about it, because this is like on the public agenda discussion in the last years. I personally think like I love trams. Barcelona was a city based on trams, and because of the predominance of cars, trams were taken away, removed from the city. We only have, I think, 2 trams left at the moment, which are like just symbolic because they're beautiful and they're old, but they're not really efficient. So, you know, you would just use them for fun, but not for efficiency, like to move from one point to another of the city. So this was a shame that we removed the trams, because we've realized over time, that trams are a much more sustainable way of mobility in cities, and electric mobility. We're going back to electric mobility, which is how trams worked. And we're realizing that this is a much more sustainable way. So it's a shame that we removed them. In the case of the diagonal, if you know, it's a very big street that crosses the whole city of Barcelona from north to south to the sea. And there is a frame of it that it has already a tram, which was built like 10 years ago, more or less. And there is a big discussion whether they should have the other half of this big avenue also like supplemented with a tram. And in my opinion, of course, this implies a massive urban work that many people are scared about, because there will be years of traffic jams. This is an artery of the city where people leave the city to work outside and enters the city every day. So this would stop all the flow of the city traffic-wise. But, you know, on the other hand, I also think that we're always scared of big changes. But sometimes if we do them, after a few years, we realize that things work better. And this is the case of the metro in many cities. Like cities like Bogota are always discussing whether they should do the metro or not, the subway system. And they decided to do a system of buses in this case, which is called the Metrobus. But finally, they realized that it's not as efficient as if they had invested in the metro line of the city, which of course implies a massive public budget and a massive urban work and a massive hassle. So it's a tricky one. I don't have a straight answer, but, you know, in my opinion, usually big changes are always scary. And somehow, as Encarna was saying, there is a lot of this this proposal that comes from an old model of city, But if we can find a way to adapt it to the current times, I think we should always bet for innovation and look forward to new ways of organizing cities. So, yeah.
So then I hope the question is answered, probably. I don't know if there was another feedback from Encarna. Okay, then I ask in the panel or to the participants, are there further questions?
I have a question for Cristina. Mirko. Hello,
Yeah, then
Cristina.
go ahead.
Hi, Christian.
Well, hello, how are you? It's more from a personal point of view rather than a professional, and it is because of the pandemic. We have seen a change in the way the city adapts, right? I mean, that was the main rationale of your presentation, how the cities or smart cities can adapt and still grow in situations like a pandemic. In terms of mobility, as a curiosity, it's like the model of public transport has been exposed in many ways in order to analyze its functionality, profitability, and future, right? So is there any initiative at a local, national, European level in order to analyze, to understand where this is going? Because this is true that we are introducing more sustainable transport resources, right? I mean, more electrical buses, etc., etc. But have you already analyzed some kind of trends in that sense of how public transport is seen, used, how it's going to be projected, etc.?
Yes, I mean, there is a lot of research on that. I don't have now the exact references, but I can look them up because our consulting team is working on public transport projects and they have a lot of references. And there is a lot of investment to understand how public transport is conceived, especially nowadays after a pandemic where, you know, these massive concentrations were happening, and where it should go. For example, I can give you the example of the region of Île-de-France in France, which started a project which was already before the pandemic, but it's been accelerated, like, because, you know, the pandemic, all the problems that the pandemic has brought in cities, we already had before, but it only has accelerated them and made them more visible somehow. So they were already, the Île-de-France government was already working on the rush hour transportation because it's a region that connects very much with Paris and they have massive flows of people at the rush hours. So they were working on a project for monetization of these rush hours and encouraging people to work from home more, or gathering data to visualize when was those the worst moments to travel, and to start a culture in society, like in citizenship, for and also in companies to be understanding, you know, and more flexible about what time workers were arriving to the office or not. So, you know, I think many governments are already working in projects that involved how we conceive public transportation and you know, to see that public services and public administration needs to offer an efficient public transportation system, but also we need to reformulate the way we live in cities and understanding that we don't need to move from one side to the other of the city to do our job. Like, thanks to digital transformation nowadays, we can actually move much less and have a much more local life. And this is the idea of a 15-minute city that I was mentioning before too.
Very, very interesting. Actually, is it true? And I thank you for bringing this up about the Île-de-France because commuting is one of the great problems, right, in cities, and somehow it's connected. Like we're having a big issue now about energy in Spain. Whether when we should be when activating the washing machine or not. Somehow, you know, the tension also in the public transport. You know, we should analyze when we should be moving, right? I mean, whether it's necessary, etc., etc. And going back to my first question, I was asking also because in the pandemic, we've seen that there's a bigger proliferation of alternative transports like these e-bikes or alternative private initiatives that as a city model somehow I remember cities like Lisbon where the growth of this kind of mobility is super crazy, and you can see this kind of electrical scooters everywhere, and you think like
Yes.
they've been dropped from the ship. And is this sustainable? Is this a model that is being replicated everywhere? What's your opinion on these initiatives?
I mean, I think it's great that, you know, like the cities are giving the space finally for active and soft mobility, and then everything goes nuts. And then all sorts of different vehicles and gadgets like show up, like all sorts, like 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 4 wheels, everything. So I think it's great, and this is an example on, you know, when you give space for something to happen, creativity and innovation start like working from the private sector and also from like individuals and public sector, you know. So I think it's a great thing happening. And you know, the problem now, as you were mentioning, and I don't know if you're based in Barcelona, but you may have seen Diagonal, with the street that Encarna was mentioning. It is a problem. Like now we have all sorts of vehicles just circulating anarchically through the city, and you know, we need new regulations to control this, because of course, like, it is dangerous for pedestrians. Some of these vehicles have a speed of 50 kilometers per hour, so it is already like the speed of a scooter, you know. So and they're going on pedestrianized streets. So we need to find new regulations, and I think this is going to be the task for public administrations, to give spaces for these new active ways of mobility to happen, but also find new ways to regulate it, because now it's the new challenge that we're facing. I don't know if anybody from the audience wants to have an insight on this or give your opinion.
It will be interesting because it will allow us to learn from different cities, but I think there's an open discussion. So thank you very much for your answer,
No problem.
Cristina.
Thanks for the questions.
I would maybe have another question for you as a smart city expert, and also about your position as a innovation and strategy director. What you're talking about, what happened in Barcelona with this ideas, so it's like this creativity in how to shape public space, or also how to use public space. My first question would be then where these initiatives came from. And the second one is, when you think about smaller cities, which are not influenced by a lot of change, by a lot of like also like foreign influence, like Barcelona or other metropolitan areas, big cities. I think about smaller cities, maybe in a conservative environment, how these cities can adapt to these changes or to these new challenges.
Interesting question. Thank you, Mirko. You know, we always we specialize on smart cities, and we've been working in smart cities since the very beginning of the concept, since the IBM company like came up with this concept. And you know, smart city, like in 2011, I remember it was the first year that the Smart City Expo World Congress started. So the first edition, and all the concept of smart cities was around new technologies and how to use new technologies to improve cities, you know, which was great. And there was a rise of technology at the moment, and we've seen a massive change and evolution in disruptive technologies in the last 10 years. But also that very focus on technology in the last 10 years has been very much questioned by other like areas of cities, like mobility or social inclusion or public space or many other verticals that involve city life in the last years. So we've seen a move from just thinking about smart cities focusing on technology to thinking of smart cities focusing on many other aspects of urban life, such as mobility or social inclusion or housing or many other aspects. So I think, all these changes that we've seen come from this change of perspective and this wide new perspective that we have of smart cities, not only linked to technologies as an end, but as a tool for solutions, as many other methodologies that may not be technological. And all these changes come from that change, which I think is very interesting. And also about your question about medium and small cities, which is something very engraved in like the collective imaginary that smart cities need to be these very big metropolises like Singapore, full of new technologies and massive infrastructures with a lot of investments. But actually, we're working for very tiny cities like Hospitalet or like other small cities around Catalonia and also around the world that have not necessarily a lot of money to invest in big infrastructure or in big technologies, but they really are aware of their problems and they want to make a change. So, I think it's a matter of just wanting to realize what is to be improved in your city, no matter how big it is, or whether if it's small or if it's big, and starting a strategy to change that and, aligned also with the SDGs that, globally, like if every city starts doing so, the world will be a much better place the day of tomorrow. So, I really encourage all cities, no matter what size or what budget they have, to start thinking about what are their problems. I think they're already doing so, and start creating solutions that may be infrastructures or technologies, or may not be, like the cases that we've seen, which is only like reorganizing public spaces or thinking of new ways of organization of city life.
Thank you. This was a nice statement. So, and then last chance for our audience, I guess, to come up with questions or remarks. You're also free to join the discussion and bring up your opinion.
If there is no question, I made that as well, that because, it's the smart city clusters and there may be like a lot of small and medium enterprises involved, that the smart city model we use like for planning strategies for cities, like big cities, but also, as I was saying, medium and small cities. But as I mentioned at the beginning, also for companies, because it is a model that really fits in companies, whether they're small companies, they can rethink the way they're organized and use innovation to improve and to have a room for improvement, but also big companies that work as small cities. And I can explain the case of Football Club Barcelona, which is one of our clients. They asked us to help them improve the stadium. And we used our smart city model to implement it in the strategy of the stadium. So, we're helping them to conceive how the stadium is planned in terms of energy consumption, for example, which is, one of the verticals of the smart city model that can be applied to a massive stadium, or also like other spaces that Football Club Barcelona has, like the training fields outside the city, or they have a sports city called Joan Gamper. So we're helping them to conceive how they use energy, how to implement new technologies to make everything more efficient in terms of lighting, in terms of internet connection for the members or for the audience in the stadium. And also very interesting in terms of mobility, how every time that there is a match, this impacts the mobility in the city massively, and there is a lot of traffic jams. So how to organize differently in order to improve and make that more efficient, and not having so much of a negative impact in the city every time that there is a Barça Madrid or something like that, and the city collapses. So, I really encourage as well people working in private sector and whether they're big enterprises or small or medium, to use the smart city model, because really it is useful for all sectors, public or private.
And is this a model you created, or?
It is, the model of a smart city, like it's been very much discussed. It's on the public arena, let's say, but we have our own methodologies that we have created and we implement according to each project. So yes, like it's custom made every time, but we have created a kit of methodologies and that we usually adapt in every project that we do, depending on, if it's a region, government, or city, or small city, or a company, like in this case.
Okay, thank you. We also got a comment from the audience, from Luisa. She said that energy consumption control requires a more complete strategy on asset management. Yes.
Definitely agree.
So, Christian, if you are okay, then I would thank you again for this really delightful presentation and your discussion with us. And then I would come, or we would just slip into the city topic, and we would come to our first presenter from the city of Leipzig, Mr. Sebastian Graetz, which is a project manager at the digital unit of the city. Sebastian, can you hear us?
Yes, hello.
And we can see you.
I hope I will close the window in the back. It's a little bit light.
Okay.
So I will start with my presentation when everything's okay, or would you do a short introduction, or should I start?
I think you can please introduce yourself. I mean, I already said a few words in the beginning about you. And then
the screen. I hope it's.
Please, share the screen.
I hope you can see it now.
This looks good. Yeah. In full screen.
Okay. So thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Sebastian Graetz. I'm working for the Digital City Unit of Leipzig, of the city of Leipzig, and I'm here a project manager for several projects. And I give you a short introduction about our topics and about what we are working on here in Leipzig. The Digital City Unit, here's the agenda for my presentation. I will give you a short introduction about our tasks here in Leipzig. Then I will talk about current projects and topics we are working on and we are focusing on. And then I will introduce a smart city model project. We have just received the invitation from our national government. It's a CUT project, Connected Urban Twin. Then I will talk about a Smart City Challenge and Innovation Competition we have initiated and started in 2021. And then I will come to a project I'm working as project manager for. It's an Interreg Central Europe project called Efficiency, and it is about data-based public transport planning. Yeah, the Digital City Unit of Leipzig, or our digitalization in the city of Leipzig, is divided in two departments. There's a general administration department. They are responsible for projects like e-government, citizen services, and IT coordination within all administrative departments. And we also have a public-owned IT company supporting us. And we as Digital City Unit, we are mainly working on digitalization projects with our public utilities, with our public transport company. We are also responsible for as transfer agency between our economy, between our research institutions, and also towards the civil society. This is our task as Digital City Unit. We are when we would call it so or name it so, a little bit like a startup. Our city unit has been established in 2019, April 2019, so we are really a young unit. On this slide, you can see current topics and projects we are working on. Currently, one important project is, for example, our digitalization strategy we are implementing in, or we are working on. We have also initiated several workshops this year, and at the second half of this year, there will be a participation process. We will have to see a public participation process. We will see how it is possible to organize this participation process, even to the COVID situation. Besides the strategy, we are working on projects based on data and services. We are currently implementing an urban data platform for the city of Leipzig and building up a digital twin. I will come to this topic a little bit later. We are currently also elaborating a Leipzig city app where we can provide public services to via apps. We are working on projects like networks and sensor projects, for example, setting up a Wi-Fi concept for the city, or working on municipal broadband network and 5G topics. We are working on database public transport planning. I will come to this project also later. We are working in several EU-funded projects as the project like Sparks. It is Horizon 2020 project where Leipzig is a lighthouse city. And there our target is developing climate neutral neighborhoods. We also have initiated a very important project from our perspective. It's called Hardware for Future. Due to the COVID-19 situation, homeschooling was very important, and we have supported families with very low income to have the possibility and have access to hardware, laptops, and we have initiated this project in April last year, and until now we have collected nearly 1,000 laptops for families with low income to have access to IT hardware. Besides this, we are working on innovation and innovation projects. We are setting up a campus, digital campus. The project is called, and we want to implement directly in the city center a competence center for where people can get known about new developments at the market trends, and can come to experience exchange. We will implement there, for example, also city lab for our society. Yeah, this is a short overview about our current projects. One important project we have just received approval for is a smart city model project called CUT, Connected Urban Twin. And this project, we have applied for it in May 2020. There have been 86 competitors, and we have received the approval in September last year, and now we started in January 2021 with this project. It is a 5 years project where we are working on with the municipality of Hamburg and Munich. And it is an icebreaker project funded from our Federal Ministry of the Interior, Building and Home Affairs, with a total budget of 32 million euro. The aim of this project, or we have different work packages. One work package is about an urban data platform and about the digital twin. We set up the IT architecture. We are implementing then this urban data platform. Before, we have to discuss especially important points like data governance, access rights, data protection regulations, which is a very important topic. When we have set up this urban data platform, we will implement several and important use cases. For example, like energy and climate friendly urban development, where we collect environmental data and would try to improve our urban environment. Besides these, we have an important work package we are leading as City of Leipzig. It is called participation of urban society. There is an open data software called DPAS, Digital Participation Tool, and we will try to test this open data platform in the city center, where there's a huge area now under reconstruction, and we will discuss with our urban society several concepts, and with this participation tool we try to do it in another way, not like single workshops. It will be a digital participation process. Besides these practical tasks, we are also working closely together with our research institutions, where we try to set up new sensor concepts, where we would like to work on virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality tasks. Also, artificial intelligence is an important part of this, and we will try to establish here in Leipzig an AI and KI research institution. And another work package is a replication and knowledge transfer process, and we will see it on some other slides. Before we have that up concept for the urban data platform, there have been several data silos in the city, not connected. We have several data information, for example, from our public utility providers, from our transport company. We have several databases from the science side, from the society side, from our city administration, and even from the economy. And we have consolidated all this information and now setting up the IT infrastructure in the back to further work on this and to implement urban applications from the urban data sources. And this urban data platform is then for us the basis for setting up and developing a digital twin of the city as a very important dynamic virtual 3D city model. And there we will also implement several functions like new visualization concepts like augmented reality in conjunction with the 3D city model. We will do several data analysis and forecasts of data. We will integrate AI, and also this is very important to make urban complex processes visible and make decision processes very transparent. This is very important for us to communicate. And on this slide, you can see first there are several phases where we implement this project together with Hamburg and Munich. In the first process, we are working on the open data platform and digital twin on our own. Then we will network and experience exchange in our metropolitan areas. And then we will do also a replication process with smaller cities around Leipzig, Hamburg, and Munich. And then there will be also a replication with other European cities. This is a short introduction about the CUT project. Now I would like to talk about the Smart City Challenge concept. The Smart City Challenge, or the idea, is to organize an annual innovation competition in Leipzig. And our target groups are founders, are startups, students, but also established companies were called up to find innovative digital solutions for questions, for challenges which were predetermined. These questions and challenges could come from the civil society and also from the municipal administration. And we are working with a very broad network, and we are implementing this project with a smart infrastructure hub here in Leipzig. It's our startup ecosystem, which is very successful, and we have several startups here in Leipzig. On this slide, you can see the ecosystem where we try to implement this Smart City Challenge. We as city have a small budget for pilot projects, and we are cooperating with our research institutions like the University of Leipzig, and the University for Applied Science. We have the Leipzig School for Graduate School of Management. They are working especially on new business concepts, but beside these, we are also working with research institutions like Fraunhofer. They are in Leipzig very strong in new and innovative financing models like crowdfunding campaigns. And besides these partners, we are also working with larger networks here in Saxony, not only in Saxony, clusters like you can see here in the Neue e.V. Cluster IT in central Saxony, and there are a lot of activities also with the Impact Hub in Leipzig. I would skip over this slide. So overall, the added value from the Smart City project is opening up the administration for new digital innovations and even to practically test and implement those projects. And this would help us as small administration to support the digital transformation process. Digital mindset is very important here because till now many administrative tasks have not even implemented with new digital solutions, and this is now our idea to practically test those pilot projects. For the established companies and for startups, we have the possibility within this Smart City Challenge even to get access to the administration and even get access to public data to further develop concepts and even to test and practically test business models. In 2021, we have now called 3 challenges. One challenge is virtual interactive walk through Leipzig city center. Another challenge is about urban environmental data. For example, how we could better recognize this data, how we could visualize this data and understand this data. And another challenge is from the civil society, where we try to test new participation models, new tools for participation. The Smart City Challenge has different steps. We have called up the competition and collected ideas at the beginning of this year. Afterwards, we are now in the development phase. For each challenge we have raised, we get the best 3 ideas and are now in the further development process. In this further development process, we try to figure out what framework conditions have to be recognized. For example, when it comes to data protection, how to get the best combination and the best framework, or which important framework conditions have to be recognized from the city level. And after this development phase, we come to an implementation phase where the best 3 ideas for each challenge will be practically tested over 6 months. And for each challenge, we have 25,000 euro budget available. Overall, this project costs us around 100,000 euro a year. And we have started this innovation competition now in 2021, but we will. It is now just only a start, and it will be an annual innovation competition even for the next years. Now I will come to a project we are working on. It is called Efficiency. It is an Interact Central Europe project. And our aim is to test use cases for data-based public transport planning. We are working in a regional consortium. We as Digital City Unit are a lead partner in this project, but we are working closely together with our public transport company and our Office for Geo-Information and Land Management. They are responsible for the IT infrastructure at city level. And we have several data sources available here in this project. We have Raspberry Pi sensors, installed at 8 or 9 trams, and they are gathering information about the energy consumption, about energy input, and we even get information about braking and acceleration energy, and there are even information available about the timestamp. Right beside these sensors, we also have onboard computers at the trams with information about GPS coordinates, and further information about public transport stops are available. And based on these data sources, we have discussed 4 use cases which could be implemented. The one use case had the idea to optimize the driving mode, and we have implemented, or we have divided the whole tram network into fixed track sections, and we can identify based on the energy information on which areas we have to optimize the driving mode. Besides these only driving mode optimization, there are also information available, for example, about traffic lights, and we would like to harmonize this traffic light information to further improve, especially the driving mode at transport crossroads. Besides this information, there's also the idea, for example, to link all this information to the streetscape design, and to find information and correlation about spatial temporal information. For example, different driving mode at normal daily time, at weekend time, even effects, for example, about major events, or how to optimize driving mode at construction sites. Another idea we have discussed is to use the trams as mobile air quality sensors, or to install acoustic sensors. But this is now a use case we are not further following, because we are now setting up or implementing a sensor network for air quality around the whole city level. On this slide, you can see different data sources available. Data sources available from the city of Leipzig, like traffic area design, like information from traffic counters. We can integrate information about the weather conditions, and from side of the Leipzig Public Transport Company, we have information like timestamp, tram computer, Raspberry Pi sensors, and we want to get all this information collected at one site and then further work on this data. There are different data layers we can implement. For example, like I've told about major events, about delay, about time, about traffic area design, and even the power usage. And all these data layers were implemented at one IT platform. And on this slide, you can see our first experiences. Now, from this project, we have, for example, on the left side, information about the traffic area design. We have marked in yellow tram lines with their own roadbed, and in green we can see information or areas with trams with a shared road bed. Based on the tram speed, we have, for example, here different areas. It is the large building here at the top is our it's
train station.
Yeah, sorry, train station. Yeah, of course, it's our large train station here in Leipzig, directly in the city center. And here you can see different areas, orange and marked in orange and red. There are areas with fast tram speed, and green areas you can see, especially in front of the train station, with a very slow speed. And all this information we'll try to get in combination with road design, and this will be a basis for further planning processes here, and can improve the public transport planning. I think this was from my side a short overview with a lot of different information. on this slide, we can see additionally we have had some problems with aggregation of GPS coordinates. There is a deviation between the tram line and between the sensor information. There is a deviation between 2 and 3 meters normally, but we have fixed it because we have found out that the sensors using another GPS concept in the background. Yeah, this was a short overview.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. So then I would directly leave the floor to our participants. Are there questions so far? See? Anyone? You can turn on your video and or raising your hand.
I would just say, Mirko, that if there's any further questions all along during this morning, you can still send it via the chat, and we will send it to Sebastian in this case, or to the other rest of participants.
Of course, yeah. Then maybe I start with a question. You showed a really broad portfolio of different smart city initiatives, and from the perspective of a public administration, what are mostly the main drivers for starting a development like this? For deciding we want to invest in smart cities? Is it because of funding programs the EU, the federal government is offering? Is it because of the demand by the economy, or is it just political will or political support?
There are many different drivers in this area. We have as I have mentioned in the Smart City competition, we have a really good startup ecosystem here in Leipzig, and they are very active and contacting the city how to further implement smart city projects. So I think that's a good driver is the economy, because it's a very important economic factor is digitalization, and it is even digitalization is cross clustering. It's around all sectors. They are not, like we have mentioned in the past, we have no single clusters like Neue energy and environment. IT is everywhere, and so I think the economic factor and the economic background and the possibilities is a very important point. And even with for example, what is very important from our side, there are more and more data available. More sensors are installed in the cities, like measuring air quality, like measuring traffic, and we have to use this data because these data are very important. And there are often discussions here in Germany how to use this data, or should they be available as public data or only internal planning data. So I think especially economic factor is a very important point, and the technological development process, and for example the speed is very important. And we as city administration, we have to be in line with this development process, and it's very important. It is expected by the society.
Okay, I just add a small question, and then how big is the influence from your citizens? I mean, you have now the Smart City Challenge and probably also some project ideas from normal citizens, not from, I don't know, companies. I don't know. How big is their influence, or maybe also their imagination of being part of a smart city?
Yeah, their imagination or their impact is very high, because they have expectations. We need to have a good Wi-Fi network. We need to have a good broadband network here, a city where we are responsible for, and they are expecting to have a modern city, to be a smart city. And so, but there are different influences from the society. There's a lot of impact there, but there's, besides the economy, there's also a huge impact from our research institutions. They have many really research institutions working on IT sector here in Leipzig. So I think the economic background or the ecosystem is very good here working on these topics.
Okay, thank you very much.
nevertheless, there are a lot of funding programs available, and we need to attract and use this funding available, not only from EU level, also from national level and regional level. There's a lot of money available, and it is our responsibility to use this money.
So bottom line, this is a big mix of different directions.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Then we have a question from the audience from Luisa. I don't know, Luisa, if you want to address it directly to Sebastian. Okay. Then are you able to unmute your microphone? Christian?
Yes.
Can we unmute the microphone of Luisa?
Yes, of course.
Sorry for the delay.
There is, yes.
Sorry, Mirko.
Sure. Yeah.
While we're waiting for this to be solved by Christian, maybe I can put a question to Sebastian, if you don't mind.
Oh, of course.
Okay. So hello. Thank you, Sebastian, for your explanation. I have two questions. One is it follows the second will follow the first one. But how does Leipzig learn from other cities in terms of new solutions, new smart city solutions? How do you learn from pilots around? And how do you compare to cities if you do this? How do you compare to cities before importing smart city solutions to Leipzig? Do you have any methodology? Do you use KPIs maybe, or you just just try and see if it works? I mean,
yeah.
Is there any process before importing any solution? Is there any process to analyze in advance whether it's worthwhile importing a solution, or what?
First of all, there's a large learning process based, for example, on Horizon 2020 projects. We have successfully implemented an Horizon 2020 Smart City project, where we first have been follower city, where I've learned from other lighthouse cities, and now we are implementing a Smart City project where we are a lighthouse city. This was a very important process, even to learn from other cities and to experience exchange with other smart cities. Indicators are available. For example, there is national smart city index made available, publicated every year, and they are analyzing all cities in Germany. And there's an index.
Okay, I think now I can can ask to Sebastian.
Hello, Luisa. Go ahead.
Okay, hello. Thank you, Sebastian. I have two questions. The first one is related to the ICT, because I am an ICT company. So I ask you, which kind of instrument did you implement to analyze the collected data? And the other question, which role has the responsibility for this analysis? Because we realized in the past a very small project, quite similar to this for our small cities. But the problem was the analysis was performed by us. They are the ICT company, and the municipality didn't use the tool we have provided. So this way. Thank you.
There's different aspects about implementing this urban data platform. We have now just worked on an overall concept where we have talked about, even there was a participation process. We have worked with our municipal companies, and we have also an own IT company, city-owned IT company in the background, and we have just now talked about the overall concept, talking, for example, about data management, data protection regulations. This is now the basis for us to technically implement the IT architecture in the background. And there are even discussions where we, for example, would store this data. Do we need own server architecture, or what data could we do in cloud concepts, or could be done? Or I think from our side, there will be a hybrid concept. There will be some data which, for example, are very with very high safety standard. They will be stored in an own server architecture set up by us. And on the other side, there will be data which we could save in cloud systems, public cloud systems. But we just now have not already talked with. There have been some discussions, for example, with Google Cloud Computing and other companies, huge companies, which contacted us, and we are evaluating how to what is the best solution for us.
Is this answering your question? Yeah, thank you. Okay. So are there further inputs or further questions? You still have the possibility to write it in the chat, or we write it to us so that we can address it to our presenters afterwards. Christian, how we are with the time? I think we are quite good.
Yes, we are perfect in terms of timing. So,
and I also already see our next speaker.
It proves that having a German as a moderator makes the timeline go perfect. So yeah,
we do our best. Yeah, then I want to finish here with Sebastian. Sebastian, again, thank you very much for your nice presentation. And then we would continue with Moritz Oesterlink from CleverShuttle, which is so nice to also do his presentation today. Hello, Moritz. I hope it's okay that we stay on first name basis.
It's absolutely fine. Thanks for having me here. I will share my screen. It's all in Spanish here, so I'm struggling a little bit, but I actually made it, I think.
It's also a training for us to learn new words, new languages.
Yeah. No, I speak a little Spanish, so I think it's.
Okay. Perfect. Then,
and you see my screen now, right?
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. Perfect. Then go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm talking on behalf of CleverShuttle. I'm working as Director of Sales and Business Development at CleverShuttle, and I think you won't know CleverShuttle when you are not from Germany, or at least not from Leipzig. But actually, we are quite a famous company in Leipzig. Actually, I think so, because always when I'm there, everybody is knowing CleverShuttle. We are normally we are based in Berlin, so CleverShuttle is operating in Leipzig. And Leipzig is actually also our largest ride pooling system, because CleverShuttle is operator of a ride pooling system in Germany with only emission-free vehicles, like here in this video. We also build up our own charging infrastructure. They're actually based right in the train station at the Leipzig main station. And our vision is to reduce the emission and traffic by pooled rides with our emission-free vehicles. I'm elaborating a little bit more about this concept later. First, a few words to CleverShuttle. We were founded in 2014 in Berlin, and in 2016, so like 2 years later, we started our business in Leipzig. We also had other businesses in other cities, but till today it's our largest city, Leipzig. So that's why it's very interesting to talk today as well. In 2018, the Deutsche Bahn took over the majority of CleverShuttle. And also later in 2019, we had a little strategic shift. So until that point in time, we were providing our ride pooling system as a B2C model, so with the name of CleverShuttle in several cities in Germany. And from that point in time, we had a second pillar in our business, which is the cooperation with the public transport companies. And we also provide our ride pooling system as a white label solution for public transport companies. So this is the second pillar of our business. We are having 400 employees in Germany. There are also drivers in this number of the 400. We have 8 projects running in Germany, and our fleet size of emission-free vehicles is 170 at that point in time. I would start again with some words on ride pooling. For those, I think here we have a lot of people working in smart city, so I think this might be very familiar thing, ride pooling, but still how we define it, we are providing shuttles in an area, and instead of making individual trips of our passengers for individual passengers, this ride pooling system, so the algorithm in the background, bundles similar routes and transport passengers together in one vehicle. So the core of this is, of course, this backend where the intelligent algorithm is pooling the rides. And of course, for the riders, it's also very nice to have a door-to-door or at least a corner-to-corner connection in this specific area where we're operating. Of course, this pooling then enables very efficient mobility and very comfortable mobility. So here we really try to give an alternative to your personal vehicle, which is of course the most comfortable way today to travel. But with this ride pooling, we still have an it's not that expensive as a cab, but still it's very comfortable. So you have this corner-to-corner or door-to-door connection. So where can you use these systems? We think here of 2 different areas. One would be the suburban and rural part, where we try to increase the attractiveness of public transport. So here, a private running system is very difficult to implement because it's quite costly and you don't have this dense structure of people living. So here we are basically operating as a partner in the public transport system. And this has actually a lot of advantages for the people there. We have huge areas that you can connect with basic mobility. And you can, for example, establish a service that connects all houses in a suburban area with the local train station, where you can then commute very directly into the city. In the city itself, in the urban scenario, we have already a very good system, at least in most of the cities, of public transport, like subways and buses. So here, the service, like we are also operating in Leipzig, is then a little bit more expensive than the public transport ride. And we are here trying to establish an additional service that really gives an alternative to your own to your private vehicle. So here we're not talking about basic transportation. Here this is actually the next level, bringing more comfortable transportation and also less traffic than in the city. One very good advantage also of this ride pooling system is that you can, it's very easy for physically handicapped persons to ride it. So for example, we also have a lot of people using it that are physically handicapped and are very grateful that we have this opportunity to have really a door-to-door service that you can book here. So you also have this social part of this transportation system, which is very big. And of course, everything works that well because it's all digital, of course, and you book it via an app. in some scenarios, we also provide phone booking, but of course, in Germany, not everything is so digitalized. So yeah, some people still get on the phone. We are not providing the service in Leipzig, but in other cities, we have this option to also book it via phone. CleverShuttle is differently from other ride-hailing, ride-pooling companies, like let's say Uber, yeah, in the biggest example here, because we are not only having a platform with an application and algorithm in the back end, but we're providing actually the whole value chain of this ride-pooling system. So from the operations, from organizing the vehicle and drivers, from planning how many drivers we will have in service, at least for the next weeks, if we, how will be the demand, we predict the demand, and then we say how many drivers and vehicles we need in the streets. Then the drivers are actually employed at our company. So we are really trying to have really social responsible company here. And the drivers, are at least it's very important for us that the drivers are very happy at our company, and that's why we are also employed at CleverShuttle. The fleet is also our own fleet. Like I said, we have a charging infrastructure established in Leipzig, for example. And we have a system where the fleet, the charging management is handled so that the cars are not running out of battery during the shift. And what we're also doing, of course, is the marketing aspect. This is sometimes forgotten by public transport companies because, it's the business is still not that digital, but this is growing more and more. And this marketing part to really get the customers away from their own vehicle into the public transport system. One very important pillar is digital marketing for us. So performance marketing, but also in-app advertising, CRM advertising, push messages, etc. So like I said, the whole value chain of this ride-pooling system is covered by us. Why are we doing this? On the one hand, this model of Uber in Germany is not very easy because you can't just say, okay, private people can drive cars. I think this is clear, but also it's not allowed that drivers drive for a long time for your service without being your employers. So this is actually a big reason for us. Also, we think that happy drivers are very important for the business, and we see it in our numbers that because of the nice drivers we have, a lot of people use us more and more. And what also is very important is that this pooling system, so the sharing of rides, is very, very hard to do it as a platform business. I talk a lot to other people, like for example, ShareNow colleagues, and we also see it at Uber, because you know that Uber also has the service pooled, Uber Pool, but they're struggling also with this service. And also the guys from ShareNow told me that they stopped providing this service. Sorry, it's free now. Stopped doing this service because they don't have an own fleet, and with individual drivers, it's very hard to organize a pooling system. So these are the reasons why we are covering here the whole value chain. Eight projects I told you before we have in Germany right now. We're not focusing on Germany only, but of course we started here, and our B2G business, so this business with public transport companies, started last year, or really started last year. So of course we then focusing first on the German market. And here's a map of our services. In Leipzig, we can see that we have two projects here. I'm talking to you on these two projects later. We're also in Essen, in Düsseldorf, Taunusstein, Frankfurt, Kreis Offenbach and Darmstadt. Also a very, very interesting project is in Darmstadt with Heag Mobilo. whic Mobilio is the local transportation company, and they started at the beginning of this year, and they want to establish a ride pooling system similar to the one that we are running in Leipzig, but under the white label. We are running it white label for the whic Mobilio, and they want to establish 50 vehicles in this town with 180,000 inhabitants. So this is a very, very dense system of ride pooling. So I think it's very interesting for all of you to follow this project and how this is developing. And it's just starting, and due to COVID, the start was very a little bit slow, but of course we all hope that this will change in the next months. This is actually a very interesting project, and the others are a little bit smaller. In Leipzig, the two projects, I'm talking to you a little bit more about this because we are now here in the, I was invited by Leipzig, so of course it's our largest business, so it's also interesting to talk a little bit on it, and I brought some numbers and charts for you to understand a little bit more how this service is working out. So on the one hand, we have this inner city service in Leipzig. Inner city is it's actually a huge area with 197 square kilometers, and in this huge area, we are driving with 64 vehicles in peak. These 64 vehicles at the end of 2019, we also had them all on the streets at Friday and Saturday night. But due to COVID-19, this changed then last year, and we are now have growing numbers again. I think we are at 50% of the initial capacity. So yeah, we hope that at the end of the year we are back in normal business here. But of course, COVID-19 was wasn't that good for our business here in Leipzig. The other business in Leipzig is in partnership with the local transportation company, Leipziger Verkehrsbetriebe. And they are running their own ride pooling system, which has, of course, a little bit different goal, because we, of course, want to establish here an additional system in the inner city separately to the local transportation system that brings other people to use less their own vehicle and more our CleverShuttle system. And the Flexa system is in the suburbs of Leipzig, still very small area. Here it's 13 and 9 square kilometers, so very small, but a lot of vehicles, so 9 vehicles in this small area. And here the goal is to establish a last mile service, basically, for the people working living in this area. So I'm not talking more about this Flexa project. Maybe in one of your other sessions, it's also interesting to hear somebody from the Flexa project. We are helping Leipzig FVP here to establish this service. We are providing vehicles and driver and doing the operations management. So now some numbers from our service in Leipzig. I'm not talking about the Flexa service. I'm not now talking only about the CleverShuttle service with the 64 vehicles. I brought the numbers of 2019, and what we see here is that we experienced growth here. Actually, we doubled our numbers in 2019. This is impressive because we are not starting from zero here in this year. We started at 35,000 rides per month and ended with over 70,000 in December. And so you can really see here that the service is well used by the people in Leipzig. And we actually are at the peak of the 64 vehicles here. And at Friday and Saturday night, we really can't cover the amount of demand we are experiencing here. Next is something very interesting because we are a pooling service. So what we want is pool people, not only because it's good for the traffic and the mission, but also because it's good for the economic data. And what you see here is that on the we put here the pooling ratio over the number of vehicles in the service. These are data from, I don't know, 2016 to today, where we started with only a few vehicles. And what you see here that we have a constantly growth in the pooling ratio. So the conclusion we make here is when you have larger ride pooling systems, you also get a better efficiency in the systems. So like you can see here, this ends at 62 because this is our car cap. But of course, we can expect that when we have a larger system in our cities, we could then have higher ratios in pooling and of course, less traffic. Another chart I brought is these on the general demand of a week. Also interesting because what you see here is that most of the demand is actually in the nighttime, so the late afternoon and nighttime, and also that on Friday and Saturday it's actually very, very high, the demand, compared to Monday or Tuesday. So Leipzig is actually a very extreme case in our portfolio. We don't experience this extreme difference between Monday and Friday in other cities, but still it's more or less the same, the same way. And this, it shows that people are using the system next to other public transport systems. They are not using it to commute to work in the inner city. This is not the main use case here for it. But what the use case is really late night transportation. So where public transport is a little less frequent, or sometimes it's also not operating at late night. And here people are using our system then more often. And one last chart, I think it's the last chart, is something that shows how important it is to establish a very good service, because here we see the waiting time that we provide to our customers. So when you book a ride, we tell you, here you have a 5-minute waiting time, or you have 20-minute waiting time. And we see that with higher waiting times, the rate of journey acceptance is decreasing rapidly. So what we can say is that if we establish a service that has waiting times between 1 and 10 minutes, this is then the sweet spot of the system. And here you really can provide a good service for the customers. But when you provide them waiting times of 25 minutes, then only actually a third or so is accepting the ride. This is a chart from an inner city service. When we are going to rural areas, this is not like this. Of course, in rural areas you have longer waiting times, and the people accept longer waiting times. In the city, the people are maybe a little bit more in a hurry. But this is the reason why we really focused on how can we establish a better service, so with better waiting times. And for this, we establish a lot of tools and processes. And to the end of this, I want to talk a little bit on these tools and processes we established to really provide a smooth service for the customers, but also be very efficient in the back with our vehicles and drivers. Because of course you can imagine when we employ our drivers at CleverShuttle, it's very important that we use this workforce very efficient. So we don't want to pay them less. That's not the reason. It's they get a good loan. It's more that when the driver is at work, that you really maximize the utilization of the vehicle and the driver in the system. So that's why we establish a lot of processes here, and this is also something that other companies like also platforms are not providing, because here the drivers are self-employed and they're doing this on their own. If you have a system with a lot of drivers, a lot of vehicles, you have to establish tools and processes for this. First is the intelligent operation. What we do is demand forecasting. So we look at the last 6 weeks and see how the demand was developing. And then we forecast it for the next 4 weeks by hour. So each hour of the week, we forecast a demand. And with this demand, let's say we have from 10 to 11 on Monday, we expect to have 200 requests. And from this number, we derive a number of vehicles we need to convert this demand into actual rides. And with this number of vehicles, we then plan a shift plan. And this is also not that easy, because the demand of cars on the streets doesn't always fit with the shift restrictions you have. So some people, of course, there are legal restrictions of the workforce that you can work longer than 10 hours, but you also have to reflect the structure of your workforce, people that work less, people that work more. So this is a very, very important step here, and actually a very, very difficult step to operate here with employed drivers. And very important during the service is the active vehicle distribution. So unfortunately, we are not allowed to do it in Leipzig, but we are working on this on the legal side. But in other services, we are already doing this. So we, due to our history of data, we know where the next demand will happen. So or will probably erase. So then we send our vehicles into these areas where the demand is probably happening. This is a very important part of the operations business. For this, we're using tools. These are just 2 screenshots here of our backend for the dispatching guys, who are on the one hand looking at the area and all the rides that are just happening. And on the right side, we can see a shift overview, and you can see on the top the these mountains of demand and of shifts that are coming up in the next hours. And you can see who's actually in the shift already, who is has a break, and here the dispatchers organizing this so that the service level always keeps up high. Next part is the driver part. On the one hand, we have been curated as top employer in the platform business, where we are very proud of. It was last year, I think, compared to other platform operators. But of course, when you are a little bit more accurate, we are not a platform, but we are, like I said, a full service supplier. But still, we are very proud of being here a top employer. For our drivers, our recruiting is very systemized here. We really have a very efficient way to see if a driver fits to our service. And we are having this Clever School, where our drivers get a training at the beginning, but also get training on the fly, like in the cars, and also later if something should be retrained. For our drivers, we have this application called Clever Portal. It's actually the opposite of the one that I showed you for the dispatcher. Every driver can see here his shifts. He can see his data, which vehicle is he operating in the next shift. He can open the vehicle. He can start his shift also within this application. And he can also end it. And like I said, he can open the vehicle, close it, and put it into charging mode. And the last set of operational competencies here is the fleet, the EV fleet that we're operating. We also have hydrogen vehicles, but not that many actually. I think 2 years ago we were the operator of the biggest hydrogen fleet in Europe, I think. But we don't have any. We don't have so much hydrogen vehicles anymore. I think only a few, but still, this was very interesting to experience this very, very new technology. But also the e-mobility part, where we started in 2014 operating with e-mobility. So we were here, the very pioneers here on the German market at least. And this also led us that we really built our own charging infrastructure, because the infrastructure in the cities wasn't that wasn't this far developed. But in Leipzig, we had a very good partner with the L Group, and with the L Group, we established in the main station a huge charging park, which is really our best charging park we have in our services, although it's already, I think, 2 or 3 years old. Our vehicles are all emission-free. We of course have this this issue of damage management. You can imagine when you have so many cars here driving by drivers, it's a huge issue here, the damage management. And the charging management, not only the infrastructure, but also the software part is very important, because we need to read the charging level of our vehicles all the time. Because the worst thing that could happen is that a driver in the shift is actually running out of battery and has to drive to a slow charger in some area in Leipzig and waits there for 1 hour until it's recharged. So this is actually the worst case, because we have a lot of vehicles. So this charging management is covering this and is taking into account the rest reach of the vehicle. And then if the battery is running out, the driver is guided to the depot, where he gets a new and fully charged vehicle. This vehicle management is also in the back end, and the charging management is automated, but still the dispatcher has an overview of the vehicles and all the data of the vehicle, and if it's available, or maybe if it's if it's damaged and can't be used. So this is also a very important part for the dispatcher. Yes, that was it. Thank you for listening. And of course, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Moritz. You're perfectly on time. I didn't expect less.
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
I tried my best.
So yeah, thank you very much for this really interesting presentation, and also to see that it's possible to have this full value chain service established in one city, that it's working. Then yeah, maybe one question for me initially. How difficult was it, for example, in Leipzig to implement a ride pooling system like this? I mean, the city wasn't known for alternative transportation. It was like a typical European city, classic transportation systems like trams, trains, buses. Then okay, we had a bit Uber and this on-demand services, but yeah, how difficult was it to implement a system like CleverShuttle?
Yeah, we started, like I said, in 2016, and the problem was that there was no legal foundation of our system. So it was actually not allowed to establish a service where you pool people. So also a taxi is in Germany was not allowed to take 2 riders in the same car that share the price. So this was the toughest challenge actually at the beginning. And also in Leipzig, it wasn't very easy to get the license to operate. This was the first big challenge. The second was the charging infrastructure. We started from the beginning in the area of this train station, but we started with a Schuko, so with the normal plug for the cars. So they had to charge the whole night, and still, yeah, this were also very old vehicles, and they yeah gave us a lot of trouble at the beginning. And yeah, but this changed then with a new charging park, and also the legal part. It's still not perfectly, but at the beginning of this year, the German government yeah, released a new legislation on the services, and now we have a base. So until this point, we operated only with an exceptional license, and now we are working with the city of Leipzig on a real on a long yeah, on a new license, where we also have this right, for example, to yeah, distribute the vehicles in the city of Leipzig. And what is also very interesting is the partnership with the public transport companies, because at the beginning this was very hard, understandable, because public transport companies thought, okay, they are now stealing our customers here in Leipzig, and are yeah, having yeah, the same customers as the classic public transport. But this changed then, because it's not the case at the end, because we are the people traveling with us. This is a different use case than with public transport. It begins with a price which is like 4 times higher than a public transport ticket. And now we have a different situation, and we are very closely working with the Leipziger Verkehrsbetriebe, but also in other cities. This cooperation is very, very good evolving. And yeah, this was at the beginning also a challenge.
Thank you. Good to know. That is not always that easy, but that you need also strong partners to establish things like that.
Yeah.
So, are there any comments from the audience? You can raise your hand. You can, yeah, ask for unmute your microphone. There is a Christian. Feel free to ask. I see you raised a hand.
Yes, well, I hope my question makes sense. Moritz, very interesting presentation. My curiosity is the following. You're obviously based in Leipzig. Do you have any plans to replicate your model in other cities? And in this sense, what does it take for a city to implement a service like yours? I mean, what is the time frame for a smart city to be ready to develop a solution like yours, or to adapt a solution like yours?
Yeah. So right now, of course we have these 2 options. The one is that you really have a private service that is economically in break even, but this is very, very hard to establish. So that's why we also we had some cities in Germany that we also closed after a few months, because it wasn't working out. So this is actually very hard in cities where you have competition, like in Berlin here. We have Uber and Bolt and everything. So here it is very, very hard to establish it. In Leipzig, it was differently. Here we have the economic data quite well. So this is actually something that, for at least for the private ride pooling system, is something that has to be analyzed before. And here, I think it's today there are only very, very few cities where it's working out. What is of course more interesting is to do it with in partnership with a public transport company. Like I said in this project in Darmstadt with the HEAG, I think it's very interesting to observe it and to see if this really leads to the impact that they're expecting from the service. What does it take to start it? I think it's when it's a public transport system, it's always the question of money, because it's costs a little bit, and it takes a long time to establish it. I think in Darmstadt it was 2 years or something until the final decision was to start it. But of course, in the private sector, this is it's way faster. Also, when the decision is there to establish the service, it's very easy, or quite easy to start it. Normally, we need minimum of 3 months, maximum I think of 6 months to establish the service. Depends also on the requirements on the vehicles. And how the charging infrastructure in this specific city is already evolved. So, but this period of time, I think, is 6 months is the normal time of establishing a service like this.
Thank you very much, Moritz.
Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much. Other questions? Maybe then I have a small detailed or more detailed questions about your traffic management, or how you establish your ride pooling. So what platforms are you using for getting like traffic data?
We are using here maps actually. This is for navigation. So we are also using the live data of here maps, and we in the algorithm that is calculating the routes. So of course, when there a demand is coming in, and the algorithm is calculating which vehicle is now best for taking this this ride. We are using not the live data of here, but we are we could, but it's it takes too long actually. So that's why we're using the basic data, and we have our own data with some correction parameters that is then the route is calculated with this correction parameters, because it's at least as I understood it, because I'm also not a technical person here. Next time you can invite my colleague and he can go into more details here. But we of course have a huge amount of requests here. So for one ride request, we have like hundreds and 200s of possible rides that we are then calculating for each request. And that's something that we are using with offline data, but then with additional parameters for each hour and area to calculate it better.
Thank you. So further questions? If not, then Christian, what is the agenda saying? Are we good in time?
We are super good in time. We should go for a break. The break was supposed to start at 20 past, so we can give participants
15 minutes?
5 minutes.
Or 5 minutes?
10 minutes. No, 10. We can give 10 minutes. Back at 11:40.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So thank you, everyone, and see you in 10 minutes.
Can you hear me? Can you see me? Almost.
We can. I hear you and see you now.
Okay, thanks. Then I just
I just wanted to write you. Okay, everything's fine. Good.
okay, and now I try to, because it's a little bit difficult to have everything in Spanish, but I try to find it.
Compartir. Yeah.
Now I look. Compartir means okay,
Yeah, sharing.
sharing. Okay, and
Looks good. It's loading.
okay, but what is the loading? Oh, that's
The system is loading your presentation, I guess.
okay, and I did not select it, so that's why I have a problem.
Okay.
Whoop. Full screen. This one. Okay. How can I stop the presentation?
You should have like a bar on the top of your screen,
But
and
I have nothing right now.
okay.
Oh, and he wants to tell me to search something, I believe. Okay. Something happening?
Not yet. Maybe we can ask Emily if we can cancel the presentation. Or did you find maybe a button to cancel the presentation or the sharing?
I try.
Ah, yeah, now okay.
I
Maybe
found
try
it.
again. Good.
Okay. And now I go to Compartir.
Mhm.
And then, okay, now I have my application open. It should work now. Okay, double click. Can you see something?
Yes, now we see you in the normal layout mode, not in the presentation mode yet, and now it's full. Okay,
Okay.
full screen. Good. Yeah, then hello everybody. Okay, the participant numbers is bouncing a bit up and down, so I don't know. People are coming back, I guess. Still a lot of people. Thank you for staying with us. Yeah, the second part of our presentation will start with Mr. Uwe Fischer, the head of the IT department of the municipal energy supplier, Stadtwerke Leipzig, and afterwards Mr. Iñigo Larraondo from IDOM will have our last presentation. That's why I don't want to waste too much time, and I would give the word to Mr. Fischer.
Okay, thank you for inviting me, and welcome everybody after the small break. I have just gathered a couple of slides and topics which I found very helpful in the whole context of the smart city, or how I made the title Leipziger Stadtwerke goes digital. So the context is, as we said, a lot of energy, but it has as well some, is a car, an e-car, is it an energy or not? In industry and a little bit of connectivity in the systems of systems context. First of all, I will start with our mission. I hope that there's a movie inside, and I will just translate in parallel what he's doing, what he's telling, because I was not able to make it in Spanish or English. Okay, so we have, that's Max. He's new in Leipzig, and he has owned a flat, and he has no idea of technology, but he wants to be digital. He wants to be smart and economical. he has no clue what to do, what power, what smart objects, what can he do? He needs a product to manage his devices. He wants to have green power, and he wants to be in a community. Oh, there's a solution, SmartX. So we combine devices with an application, with a community power. Yeah. So, and of course, a rule set to manage and to control devices. So he can cook coffee if there is green energy in the network. Then there is in the background a possibility to connect with the grid with blockchain, for example, and he can save money even with car loading. And he can, if he produces power or gets some power, he can share it with others. That's what makes him happy. And he is now entitled to manage his power, his demand, his community, and yeah, that's it. So that was our, let's say, our mission. We want, what we as well said, okay, if we are digital, if we are an energy company, then we need to do something for the customer. The customer need to have a benefit out of it. So that means what I showed was, okay, this was an option with just a toolbox with a smart home. Why smart home? Why is smart home permanently in the focus, but nobody is delivering? So everybody is talking about smart home solutions in the energy context, but it's not delivered. Not even we. But we are with the Sparks project, we are on the driver's seat of that. The second topic is, so smart home is one, electricity community, which is intelligent networked together, is the second topic. So if we have a lot of PV and we do not use the PV, do we give it to the grid company or do we just share it with friends? So it's kind of energy cloud services. Yeah, we want to become energy transition manager. That's what our mission, our strategy for the Stadtwerke means. That means we need to, what we need is data sourcing, networking, virtualization, monitoring, remote control, and data science. That's all what is part of a IoT platform. So the IoT platform is a base, the foundation of all services, of everything we put on top of it. So what we are doing with it. So this is SmartX, which I just mentioned with our green power plug. Or for example, electricity community where you share PV, or remote meter reading, this is just for our own benefit, or district heating to have a energy management platform to manage inside a district everything, or of course electricity and gas provisioning and energy production. This is the high-level picture of the Leipziger IoT platform and what the first purposes were. So what does it mean to be a successful energy manager? So customer wants to be, I want to be part of the energy transition. This is what customer wants. I want a reliable supply service. I need orientation in the increasingly complex world. These are hard statements which we just got from our customers on one event which we made together with the customers. The requirements are energy transition manager sees and monitors all energy flows in the building, can control energy flows according to customer requirements, increases the well-being of the customer in the respective situation. And what can we do for that? What we need to do for that is high-level expertise and always available for the customer, knowledge at the cutting edge, data sourcing on site, preparation of energy forecast, access to energy trading market, response to market signals, rule-based control of energy flows. So the last sentence just means demand response in the energy environment. These are just products for different customers and so on. I just fly through it because I have enough slides. So this is just what we in our capacity management or as a digital Stadtwerk need. This all the options or all the features we need. If we reduce it, then we have just 5 topics. We have technical connections. If you know the word SCADA, this means data acquisition, monitoring, the visualization of the acquired data, control, so sending back using the technical connection. So monitor means reading the data, control, writing the data. Pooling of performance needs to be just an aggregator on top, and the marketing to do all of that. That's what's behind our platform. This is just, okay, what inside, who needs to be a part of which topic. And that's why we interlinked all the different departments together. So working together is key of everything what we do, because we reduce the silos. So this is a nice picture of what happens in the context of data, of digitalization. Digitalization means customer and IT, or customer view and IT view need to be combined to be able to understand what customers mean, to create a product with some features which are then provided via portals, data, infrastructure, data acquisition device, and translated into services. So this is the 2 departments which need to work very close together. It means we develop step by step new topics. So we start with monitoring, go to visualization, then we do the next steps. So step by step, we create some more topics which are then monetized or set into production. This is how it sees, how customer can see it. So just to show customer, hey, this is in the big building in the district. Here you see your district heating access station with all the different temperatures which are needed for the customer. And to translate all of that into smart city sparks was this one. So we started, we said, okay, if we have a digital platform, now it's just of expanding and using all of that. So it means, as I said in the first phase, connectivity, data acquisition. In the first phase, generation of power, renewables, energy systems, PV, CHP, weather combined with weather and demand forecasts. This is the generation piece of the IoT world. The second one is the consumption. Which apartment or who is using how much of the power. The third phase is controlling of special consumer devices, especially the green sockets, for the optimization of energy streams within the district. So if a customer gets a benefit, he lets us control based on the green power, available green power in the grid. Number 4 is distribution of energy streams with regards to supply and demand, so just managing. Number 5 is having a local logic with real-time feedback on the edge device. So the devices in the middle, what you see, are all full, computing services. It's not just the gateway; it's a edge device where we do calculation. Number 6 is real-time data, for example, parking space, waste management, or whatever. Number 7 is storage of power using different technologies like power to heat or store or batteries or whatever. And that's the ecosystem where you need or how we can fulfill with the IoT platform the different requirements which we need. That means in the next topic, if we have all these data acquired, then we are able to optimize and control special devices in the context of money, CO2, or grid stability. So this is then how to use it, how to be part of the energy transition. And then, of course, our trading department can use this data in the big energy context of the trading world to optimize and to tell us how we can react. So reduce some generation or reduce some consumption. That's the energy logic in the middle. What are or what were the main challenges? So the assets grow and grow and grow. So you start with 5 devices, but you end up with hundreds. So that's why we have built a common basis, a common platform where we are able to work with all kinds of IoT data. And then we can classify the data just, hey, you are customer, you are producer, you are storage, or you are network. So this is then in the IoT system, we can classify, and then with the classified data, we can work. So the data growth and diversification of asset pose major challenges for the existing system. So the old silo architectures, so we have one data flow, some applications, one is traffic light, one is PV, one is others. So if we have a lot of silo architectures, then it's difficult to bring them together in a real-time basis. That's why our digital platform has just the customer application is diverse, but everything else we have standardized and combined to be able to manage it in all different ways. This is just a picture. So there's the DIN spec or the some general definitions. What means a digital platform in the context, for example, of open data platform? So this is a full-size platform, IoT platform, integration platform. This is what we are able to provide with it. And we rely on flexible hardware, and the software makes a difference. So, for example, complex data processing in the district heating is data intensive and needs some machine learning and KI competences to do a proper allocation of things. And we have a large amount of real-time asset and environment data and knowledge of their context. That means, if you translate it, you have external data, if you have asset data, real-time data, you have the contextual information, and that means you have the status. this is the definition of a digital twin. So, and in this context, we defined some digital twins. One, for example, is this Hausanschlussstation, where we have the master data, the picture, the data flow integrated with real-time data. So all the data points you see here is dynamic, and the picture, of course, is just a PDF translated into IT, but this is static. So this is one of the digital twins where you can see then the real-time data flying, and you are able to see it in the context where you need it. What do we do with the wealth of digital information? Okay, we do a lot of things. So we virtualize the data to be able to bring it in the right context and to give it back to different hard and software. So abstraction layer is our keyword in this point. Then we can as well, if we use blockchain, our Ethereum implementation, then we can put to each data point just a stamp, a blockchain stamp, and we are able to trade small pieces of energy between different customers. We can extract data, information from data and manage our assets as an overall system. So that means the plant, for example, the plant automation. If you have a lot of different points, data, so we are able to automate a plant or a district, extend it with external data sources, and then provide it just as data, test, and after the data science, we can roll it out for the customer usage on that. So this is just the data flow in each of these digital twins. We have professional hardware base and deliver our own operating system. This seems strange, but as I mentioned, there are a lot of different, in the past, there were just some examples of gateways. Get data, translate it, and give it back. What we are going is, we use a Raspberry Pi, but a Raspberry Pi with which is in the industrial usage. So there is 10 years of use time. A standard Raspberry Pi, if you buy him for 30 euros, is 1 year. Is a usage, full-time usage possible, but we need something which runs 10 years in a good quality. That's why we went here to a enhanced Raspberry Pi as the hardware. So it's a full-size computer, storage, computing power, everything inside. A lot of interfaces available to connect. And then what we did on top of it, we created our own operating system. Because the operating system, if you use just a Linux or something like that, there are in each distribution are hundreds of services included. If you want to be in a crisis or security environment, we need to control each single service in an operating system. That's why we created our own operating system, and we have only these services available which are actually needed. We have in the back end, of course, full automated version and patch management system, which just deploys and patches all machines in the right level, and configuration management to install new services if we need them. So it's full automated, it's hardened, and it gets data, translates them, operates them, and sends them to our platform in a secure way via message queues or other topics. This is how we see an IoT platform. So you have some persons, they have a device, it looks like that, they have some device, they have something, then we try to get the data, we send the data to the internet via a public service in our data center, behind the firewalls, into our hardware, into the virtualization level, into the software, on the web server, then some web environment, then some Docker containers, then some applications, or then some data quality management, then some message queue or Kafka distribution, then an application. It goes into in our real-time database, and here you see the customer application. So, and everything between here and here is standardized, full automated. Everything on top is application centric, needs to be managed, but everything on the bottom is standardized. So we have solutions from the IoT area that are essential for a smart energy supply and smart city. And we see us as a systems of systems. That means Google is a system, they have data. Deutsche Bahn is a system, they have data. Yeah, and there are other companies like HubCheck, e-mobility roaming. These are own systems which have their own context. And what we are doing is we create in a system of systems context applications for our customers. But of course, not everything on our own. We work with partners, we work with others, but everything what we do is our own intellectual property. It's our own software. It's scalable with almost without any license fees. This is what we need because an IoT world is designed for mass data. And if you have €1 per device as management fee, then in small pilots you are happy. In the reality, you go bankrupt. That's what I wanted to contribute in the context of Leipziger Stadtwerke with an IoT platform in the Sparks Horizon 2020 context, where we connect all different. Go to the first picture. Back to the first picture.
And thank you very much, Mr. Fischer.
Yeah.
For this nice presentation and this really detailed information about the systems you are applying and what kind of infrastructure you need for that. It's quite interesting to see this project Sparks, what you have, like where you're trying to build up like an energy district, as a test program. And from my side, I would have the question is how difficult it is to get all the relevant stakeholder in one quarter together to adapt these smart solutions. I mean, in a quarter you have private owners of houses, you have like community owned houses, so you have a mixed owner structure. So how you can bring them to use smart tools, how they to adapt these new technologies in order to really do a smart district planning.
You have to provide the customer a benefit. So 5 years ago, I was on a conference, and one of the energy companies told us, if we have smart meter, then we tell the customer, hey, you buy that smart meter, it will cost you €100 per year, and then we have all your data in real time, and it's cool. Okay, what's the customer benefit? So he has to pay €100 and no benefit. So that event made me just curious, and I said, okay, now it's really we have to think on the customer edge. We have to make them even, I want to be cool, I want to be green. So I live in a flat and I want to co-own a PV plant, which I cannot do in my flat. So I do it in a virtual base. So I just look somewhere PV and now I buy a share of it. And then this share, this production of this piece of PV is reducing my energy bill in this flat. So the virtualization of generation, production, consumption can be used to give the customer a good feeling, or to save money, or to get some more benefit. So yeah, smart home solutions are created for benefit. At the moment, they are just still some technology playground. But if we get it combined, if we combine it usage, in any case, CO2 saving or money, then it will automatically be used. Or in the e-mobility environment, for example, we created our e-mobility platform. We have all the e-mobility infrastructure connected, all the wall boxes and everything in our cloud, and we have an app. And this app is combined with European-wide mobility services. And the next benefit, which we just are in the realization phase, this public roaming. A lot of customers provide that, an app where you can load your car. And we are now going to integrate that into the home-owned wall box. So you can use the same app to use the wall to control the wall box, and we provide him our own special tariff. So if you are a customer, then you get in the roaming base a better tariff. So he saves money. So we combine that, and in the background for the whole fleet of our 200 hybrid cars in the management. The management has some hybrid cars, and if the wall box, if they load their hybrid cars with our app, and the grid company says, "Oh, I have a problem," then they push one button, and we stop for this special fleet all the loading activity. This is with the platform, just a button, just a web page to be created for that fleet. Stop and pause the loading now until the grid is coming back. So this is just one step on the other, and this is something where we save money, which we can give back to the customer. So it as well permanently provides services for the customer, they will use it. And digitalization means everything is connected to each other, even in a system of systems context, or in one system and not in silos which are next to each other.
Thank you. And this Sparks project, what is the actual or the current status of the project?
So all of our public, for example, in the green power plug, which means, so we have we provide a power. That's what I meant on this page. We crossed out the SmartX node because smart home is still 1 or 2 years away from us. But to provide somebody a smart plug and connect it directly to the cloud and control it from the cloud is possible. It's much easier to roll out. And if we bring more services, we can bring the smart home module in the second phase. So these are learning phases. So we have this full thing available. We have tested now the automation and the integration of the smart plug so out of the box. We ship it from China. We ship it to a customer. They use our app to integrate it into the WLAN, and then they assign it to a device and allow us for example, 1 hour per day to stop this plug and everything which is behind. Of course, we need to give them something for that, and there we are still working on that. But this is something which is available. So the e-mobility, where we have all of our loading stations connected and are able with one button to be grid, to support the grid, is possible, and the bidirectional loading of cars is prepared. So the loading stations are able to do it. If there is a car available who allows it, then our stations are able to provide it. So these are, for example, just some of the Sparks topics in the digitalization context. And there's of course then some solar plant which is now back on track, which were far away from track, but it's not back on track. So most of these topics will be delivered in the plan.
Okay.
Like all IT projects in the last minute, but this is it. It's IT.
Okay, thank you. So then I maybe appointing our audience to address some questions. Are there any? Please feel free, raise your hand or write in the chat that you want to ask a question. Okay, Christian, please go ahead.
Okay, Uwe, thank you very much. Very interesting presentation and project. We'd like to stay in contact with you for other parallel actions. My question is the following. How do you foresee or project the residential areas in all this model? And when I'm talking about residential areas, I refer to the participation of end users. Because obviously I understand that most of this infrastructure is related to public services or the administration of the supply of energy for the city services or most of the city infrastructure, but obviously there is a part of residential energy consumption. So how do you manage participation of end users in order to control or to optimize the peak of energy use?
That's exactly the critical point. So we are in discussions, even we have not yet finished our product development. So our technology is developed. That means we have a plug, and a customer tells us, hey, this is my fridge, and I allow you 1 hour per day to stop it. So this, and what is missing right now, for example, you will save 5% on your energy bill, or you will get one free entry to the swimming pool or whatever. So we need to monetize that to the customer, and this is the missing piece at the end. So technology-wise, it's fine, but you need to provide an incentive for this flex energy. And if customers, you are in the middle of the cooking and you stop their cook machine, this is not what they want. But a fridge, 1 hour per day, nobody will even realize. Or yeah, some other devices which have a high energy consumption. If you tell them 5% reduction, then they will use this for their e-bike, for the grass cutter or whatever, because nobody cares if it stops for an hour. Or the car with a wall box, if the customer gets in the application the possibility to say, hey, if the energy price at night goes 10% down, then make my car full. If it stays on that level, store it with 50% or whatever. So we can a kind of a trading. So I stop my car, I put in the plug, and I tell if the price goes this way, make it full, or if not, then calculate back. I want to leave my home at 8. It needs to be 50% charged. When is the last minute to start loading independent of the price? Or vice versa, if the price drops, full. I think these are the killer applications. That's why wall boxes and cars is, in my view, the driver of the energy transition.
Do you mean that electric vehicles could be like the trigger to start this process and replicate it to the other type of devices, for instance?
Yeah, because if you do it with your car and save €1 per day, then you put in your coffee machine or your fridge where you save 20 cents per day on top of it, because then it's 120 and not €1. So you need one big block to add small blocks on it. If you add a block, 5 cents savings per day, hey, go away. I will not even look at it. But if you have one key application, then you can put others on top.
Interesting. Okay, thank you very much, Uwe.
Thank you.
I would like to make another question, but I can also ask the audience again, but seems nobody is reacting. I just have a general question. With developing the smart home system, developing more and more smart devices, I think it also brings more challenges to security issues. I mean, energy supplier companies are critical infrastructure, and having probably like later smart gadgets for houses, for smart home, which are not related to the own system the municipal energy supplier is creating. So how you deal with these issues? Or what is your approach in security?
So security is one of our baseline or basis for the development and so on, and for all of our concepts. So it means that we have. So I showed the context of this big circle of data flow and so on, and in this context, each piece of it has its own special security. We do not create a security for e-mobility. No, we have a security for the edge device. We have a security for the data collection. We have a security in the customer interaction. So we have a full set of options which we apply on each topic or which are generally applied. So for example, a big intrusion detection system is, of course, in the data center running and is able to identify anomalies. So this is one of the topics on the bottom. So security is part of all the architecture. It cannot avoid everything, but in combination with architecture, detection, and the knowledge, we can then in every, if we identify a leak, we can react in a very, very short time matter, and on the separation of networks, separation of each of all devices. So communication is only in one direction. So if one hacks one smart home solution, hey, he has hacked one, and he can go down towards the data center, and there are security measures. He is not able to communicate with the neighbor devices. So this is all part of the architecture, and I believe we have thought on most of the topics. But reaction and knowledge is the key in the security environment.
Okay, thank you. Good to know. Then if there are no further questions, then I would say thank you very much again, Mr. Fischer,
Thank you
for your presentation and your time. And then we would like to continue with our last speaker of the day, and with Iñigo. Iñigo, thank you for participating on that short notice because one ICT company from our cluster, dropped on short notice. So I'm really thankful to have you here today. Iñigo is business director from the company IDOM or IDOM. Yeah, and he will give us a introduction to the projects of his company, right? And yeah, it's mostly about urban and interurban traffic management. Then, Iñigo, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mirko. So I'm gonna have a presentation of the projects that we have more related to ITS. As Mirko mentioned, I lead the ITS business at IDOM. IDOM is a consultancy and engineering company based in Spain, but we have projects in many countries worldwide. So the idea, I'm gonna show you a presentation. Give me 1 second to share my screen. Here. Okay, I think, I hope you see my screen.
It's good.
Okay, thank you. So this is just few words about the company that I belong to. We are an engineering, consulting, and architecture company with headquarters in Spain. We are in the market for more than 63 years, and our annual turnover is about 300 million euros. So we have offices in many countries worldwide. One of our differentiators is that the owner of the company are the employees. This is just a brief introduction of the company. So we are going to show you experiences in ICT and ITS as intelligent transportation systems. So the idea is that we are going to show projects that we are working, and those projects we think they might be interesting for the audience for future opportunities and to see what is going on in the market regarding ICT and ITS in general. So you can see here where we have projects where we had projects as company. This is our footprint based on different business solutions like ITS master plans, urban traffic control systems design and supervision, interurban traffic control systems design and supervision, tolling, tunnels, and ticketing automatic fare collection. So this is just where you see where as a company we are working in, we have been working in many countries. So ITS master plans means that we define what a country, a region, or a city should do to develop intelligent transportation systems for the city, for the region, or for the country. Urban traffic control systems is traffic light systems with all the devices. Interurban is highways management, mainly. Tolling, I think, is quite known. Tunnel systems is all the systems that are regarding tunnels, and automatic fare collections are the systems that are in metro, buses, etc. So the idea is that the presentation, we are going to give you some projects that they are ongoing projects that you can see here where there is investment from public procurement, and that we have also participated. The first one is in Bangladesh, where we design the BRT systems BRT systems from ICT and ITS perspective. So we designed the telecommunication systems for the BRT in Dhaka, and also the fleet management system and the automatic fare collection for Dhaka. As there is some kind of interaction between the fleet management system, we also had to design the urban traffic control system for the city. That is regarding the BRT. This is one project that we participate. Another one is in Sao Paulo. This is one specific project that we in Sao Paulo. There are about 5,000 traffic junctions ongoing, but the issue that they have in the city is that they are not centralized. Almost 10% of the traffic signals, they are centralized. Why? The reason is there are two reasons. One is lack of technology, lack of telecommunications network. They don't have access to all the traffic junctions, so they are working in local, managing only the junction. And the other thing is because they are working with different traffic lights protocols that they don't interact each other. So here we work with the municipality of Sao Paulo to identify what is the best one, or what is the protocol that Sao Paulo should go ahead into implementation of the protocol to implement the traffic light system. So we analyze the different traffic control systems that they already have. We prepare analysis of technological alternatives. We prepare also a financial and economic analysis of the alternatives, and at the end there was a proof of concept in one main avenue of Sao Paulo. So what the conclusion of this is that in Sao Paulo there is a potential investment from the municipality, I mean in telecommunications and in ITS that needs to be developed, and there is an intention from the municipality to go ahead to have an homogeneous traffic light system for the city. The first one is in Tel Aviv, that we define that we support one company in the definition of a solution to provide access to the commuters that goes to Tel Aviv center. The issue is that instead of what they build is a mix of different solutions, because they mix parking, fleet management, and tolling managed lanes solutions in one. So the way that it works was we had to define the solution in order to provide mobility to the commuters from outside of Tel Aviv into Tel Aviv. So the way that it works is that the user, the commuter, goes into a parking lot. That the parking lot is outside the city, and there is a smart parking system that identifies what is the parking lot that is available in order to access to the parking lot fast and park, and then the commuter will take the bus from the parking lot to the city center. The bus that goes from the parking lot to the city center will go into a high occupancy toll lane, where the buses and high occupant vehicles, they are free, but single occupant vehicles, they have to pay. So the way that the project is funded is by the tolling that is between the parking and the city center. So we support one of the one company in the design of such kind of solution. Another project that we are also working is in Ethiopia in the definition of a highway project, ITS and tolling in Ethiopia. Also projects that are ongoing that they will convert into potential opportunities for the audience is in Croatia. They are thinking to change into a barrier, in the existing barrier tolling into non-barrier tolling system. So we designed the non-barrier tolling system, and they are going ahead in the procurement stage on that. And we also working in toll systems in Spain that we work in one project, the first one, but they are ongoing projects regarding multi-lane free flow tolling systems in Spain that they are announced right now by the media. So this is one part of the presentation. I have two more parts. There are two related to two projects. One is a project that we define mobile ITS services, and another project that we are also working, that the idea is to provide further explanation of those two projects. So what we have here in this project, we see that there is a urban transportation challenges in developing countries due to lack of road capacity, poor traffic management, and lack of transport demand management. And we think, or in that case, our client, that was the World Bank, thought that by using mobile platforms ITS services can be provided in a simple, mobile, and affordable, and real-time and tailored to a user way. So here we can see here in the project what we developed. We developed a guidebook to be used by municipalities, and where we identify the ITS services that can be implemented by mobile platforms. So the idea that we have here is that we define the basis and the framework for the implementation of mobile ITS solutions in order that the municipalities can prepare the tenders for projects. So the project by itself was we had to develop the guidebook. We had some kind of technical assistance to some pilot cities where we travel to several cities, and we identify how the guidebook work in the pilot cities. We updated the guidebook, and we had the dissemination activities with the guidebook. So the duration of the project was 17 months and was funded by Korean Trust Fund. So here is the process that we had. There is a standard that defines that there are 179 ITS services. So, but we also identify how many of those services can be implemented into mobile platforms. So there is some kind of filtering, and at the end we define, detail define the ITS mobile solutions that can be easily implemented by mobile platforms. That here you can see here in the screen. Sorry. So we identify the traffic and roadway solution, static public transport information, real-time public transport information, traffic advisory and warning to drivers. So you can see here that where we identify those solutions, and we further develop the solutions in order to to help municipalities to prepare the terms of reference for the implementation of those solutions. Any of those solutions, they had a brochure where we have a description, goals, beneficiaries, budget, stakeholders, with a lot of information, and this information will be used by the municipalities in order to launch potential projects regarding mobile ITS. Here you can see the process that we assess World Bank and the process that municipalities should follow. The first one is phase one is needs assessment, is to understand the needs that are related to transport agents, to understand the needs from citizens, and we have to match the needs with the solutions. In parallel, we also identify the enabling environment assessment, that where we identify the institutional aspects regarding available human resources, degree of involvement of stakeholders, etc. We also identify technical aspects like the standard framework, the ITS development, etc. And we also identify the feasibility analysis. How if it's feasible to implement the solution in the city, or yes, in the city mainly. We prepare a solutions prioritization with solution a solution to be prioritized, and also we define the mobile-based IT solution implementation. This is the process. With this process, any municipality can address by their own way, can address the definition of solutions and in order to prepare the terms of reference for potential projects. This is like it is like a capacity building. At the end, after we had some kind, after we have the meetings or the pilots where we saw the guidebook and so on, we realized that there is a lack of information from the municipalities. So there is a lack of awareness about ITS in general, about mobile potential ITS. We and the client, in that case, the World Bank, identified the benefits of mobile ITS instead of having conventional ITS. That a policy framework is needed for the service, and partnering with citizens for the implementation. I think that is also needed. So one of the conclusions that we have after the project is if in any new city is going to implement ITS services, instead of having a lot of hardware, we think that they have to go into such kind of mobile ITS services. So this is the second part of the presentation, and the last one was related to another project that is a new one that we are working right now, that is a smart mobility guideline for bank operations, benchmarking and piloting, that is starting in April present year. So what we are going to support is World Bank in the definition of ITS or smart mobility projects in the cities that they are working. So we have two phases on this project. One is the methodology, where we define a methodology to identify the mobility solutions that according to the regions, country, etc., is better to be implemented. And we also define the plan for the implementation. We have also pilot, so means that we work with some local World Bank teams for each city to identify the smart mobility project, and we also support the World Bank team members in solving the need for mobility, and we generate the roadmap to solve the need. And the project is, the duration of the project is 8 months, started present April of present year, and is also funded by the Korean, no, this is Korean Green Growth Trust Fund. So here you see the scope of works and methodology that we have for the project. They are like two parts. Here is the first one that we have to identify international experiences and benchmarking about the implementation of smart mobility solutions in cities worldwide. We are working in contact with about 30 cities to identify the solutions and the experiences that they already have in smart mobility. And we are preparing some kind of documents for COVID response, and also we define the concept for smart mobility, what smart mobility means. This is something that World Bank is very interested. And after that, we have to prepare another guidebook or guideline to implement a methodology to implement the smart mobility solutions in city. We define the procedure that any city can follow in order to implement smart mobility solutions. This guideline initially will be used by the bank, by the World Bank. And then we have pilot activities where we implement the guideline into several pilot cities. And we also have a deep dive advisory in Bogota. So that these are the main aspects. And at the end, we have another capacity building and dissemination program with World Bank, where we are going to present the benchmarking, the guideline, and also the result of the pilot activities in several activities that World Bank is working. This is just for you to see which are the cities that they are going to implement such kind of smart mobility solutions. And we are working in, as you see here, in many cities in Latin America. And so in total, we have 17 pilot cities. We are also working in Balkans, and 2 cities in Africa and in Vietnam. So the project is in a very, very early stage, so we cannot provide more information about this. That is all from my side. So if you have any question, I can give you any idea of the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Iñigo. Really interesting to see how or where you actually have all projects, and yeah, that smart mobility is a topic everywhere in the world, especially probably also in developing countries or like rising countries where you have high population growth and cities which are growing dense. So yeah, thank you very much for this interesting presentation. Are there any comments or questions from the audience? Maybe then I start again with one. Yeah, you showed that you have projects all around the world and that you also, contracted to writing guidebooks, to writing manuals, to summarize your experience of your projects in all these different countries. Can you maybe give us some hints in how different countries, different continents see this aspect of transportation? What is important in transportation and what is for them intelligent or smart? I don't know if it's maybe all around the world the same, or different countries, different continents have different focuses on adapting mobilization and transport.
Yes, it's very, very interesting the question, because there are very differences if you compare between continents and countries. For instance, to do the same, for instance, the traffic management system in many Latin American countries, they have a lot of paperwork. And if you go to any European, not all the European, but many European cities, they have very few people working in the operations of the traffic management. Why? Because they have everything centralized, because with one person can manage a lot of traffic junctions, because you know that everything, all the issues that appears in the system, they pop up in the screens. For instance, yes, if you compare what is going on in any city in Latin America or Asia in general, I mean Southeast Asia, I mean, compared with Europe, there is a lack of centralization. There is a higher OPEX, and in other cases we also see that there is the clients, they are locked by the technology supplier as well. So I mean that there is another issue that they also have. For instance, we work in a project in Bogota, and they pay more for the traffic system than they already paid in Europe for the controllers. I mean, why? Because they had a very old system, very old technology, and such kind of things. So what we see is that best practices that are implemented in Europe should be transferred to other countries. And I see that there is an opportunity for all of us on that. I think you're on mute.
We cannot hear you, Mirko. You're muted, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, we hear you now.
Okay, I don't know if Estibaliz wants to address her question directly, because we have a question from the audience. Maybe you can give her the microphone, or I can just read it. Okay, she's asking, which are the main trends you see in ITS to solve the pain points of local authority?
Main trends in ITS, in urban environment, I see the integration. You know, I think that we have to integrate all the mobility solutions to provide the mobility demander, the mobility user, to provide solutions. I mean, instead of having information of the traffic lights, having information about the bus system, metro, whatever, no, to have all in one. You need to have information as a user of the. I am a user of mobility. As a user of mobility, I need to have information of all the transport modes that are available in the city. I think this is a trend for a city, for all the city policymakers, to provide such kind of solution for the user of mobility. This is I think it's a trend that there are cities that they are trying to solve, but not completely. But I think it's the should be the goal for all the for the policymakers of cities. And there was another question. Can you recall?
I can relate, but it's just to your question or to your answer. So does it mean that the trend is now more focusing on getting as much as possible data and to connect these data to solid information, or is it also already going to what I do with this information? So how I gonna adapt this information in planning my traffic light systems to control them, to regulate traffic in the city, to have maybe also algorithms reacting on automated traffic flows, things like this?
I mean, what I'm trying to say is that we need to provide information to the user right now. A combination of the different potential solutions and to transfer the information to the final user. So this is one trend that we see, that instead of using one highway, you can use the bus system that will deliver you to your final destination more or less in the same time. Or I think we need to integrate all the information, all the transportation modes to provide a portfolio for the final user. If you go to a city, I mean, in a city level, you have the traffic management system that is led by one type of people of the municipality. You have information about the bus system that is from another. You have about metro, but there is nothing integrated that in a proactive mode. For instance, if I am a commuter and I usually go from home to the office by car, to be informed that today you will not use this car, it's better to use this metro lane or this bus stop, or I don't know, to provide in a proactive way, to provide information, not to be connected to one app or the other. Or this is how we see that instead of having like different applications for different solutions, everything integrated from the user perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, this other question we had from the audience was if the slides from the panelists, like from you, from the presenters, will be shared. And yeah, I think Christian also answered already. Yeah, that we will ask you for the presentations, or the presenters for the presentations, and then later we'll also make it available for you as audience. So are there any further questions to Iñigo? Or comments, or in general questions to our event today? Or maybe you have another thought about what other presenters talked about? No? Any comments? No.
No, I think that we are also on time, Mirko. So
Yes. This I also would mention, it's almost one, or let's say it's one. Then maybe I provide you with Christian together with some more information. So we want to make sure that you will be prepared also for our next event, which will be hosted next Tuesday at the same time frame between 9 and 1. This time, Ilya, our colleague from Bulgaria, from Sofia, will be the host of this event. So we will hear mostly presentations from regional stakeholders of Sofia and Bulgaria. The connection link will be the same like you got today. So we have this permanent link for our event, so you can just use the same WebEx link to log in. And yeah, maybe Christian, you want to show us the updated program for next week already, so we can have a short look?
yes, of course. Let me just.
Yep.
First, I'm going to share the link to the updated version online, so anyone.
Yeah, please, everybody have a look in your chat.
Yes, I mean, you can access this link, but I can also share.
Yeah, and I think everybody will get a reminder anyways.
Yes, I mean, but it's interesting to just to share it. If technology allows me. Okay, Mirko, just confirm that you can see the screen.
It's loading. There it is.
Okay, so yes, the 22nd of June is the next session that is going to be hosted by or showcasing the city of Sofia. We're going to have our colleague Ilya Levkov from Electric Vehicle Industrial Cluster. He's going to be moderating the session, and we're going to have a masterclass by the expert Gordon Falconer. He's a smart city strategic consultant and was also the strategy head at Master Smart City, and I think he's quite an expert in order to share his vision in many aspects of the smart city spectrum. And then we're going to have the same as we did today, contribution from innovative companies, bringing their experience and examples. In this case, in relation to ICT, public administration, energy, and mobility. The format is going to be the same, so we encourage you to come back and participate and obviously get the most out of it, because it's going to be a very interesting month until the final session on the 13th, where SMEs are going to be pitching their solutions for the smart city.
Thank you, Christian.
And that's all.
I think that's enough information for next week. And then I don't want to give a long speech. I thank again all our presenters for their interesting presentations and insights, and that they're available for all the questions we had. I hope you enjoyed it. We're also up for feedback. If you like, just text us if something didn't work out for you. And you can also text us if you like it.
And we'll make it better for next time.
Then we make it better. And yeah, then thanks again also Christian and all the organization team.
Fantastic. Bye to everyone, and see you
Then-
next Tuesday.
Yeah, see you next week.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you, Mirko.